Some scenarios experienced by a person can permanently transform their lives. Domestic abuse, sexual violence, unproductive relationships, and frustrated plans were crucial for Estibaliz Carranza, according to her, to have committed 2 murders of her ex-boyfriends. Her sole aim was to find a Prince Charming who would give her a child and meet her expectations. Otherwise, she felt the need to get rid of them. Today, we will talk about the Estibaliz Carranza case. Estibaliz Carranza was born on September 6, 1978, in Mexico City. She lived with her mother Angela, her father Armando, and her younger brother. Her father was a writer of esoteric books who adored mysticism. Besides criticizing the Mexican government, attracting the government's enemies, Armando was religious and harsh with the family, which complicated his relationship with his daughter. The Mexican government considered him an activist and a threat, leading to the family's home being invaded by the armed forces, resulting in various items being destroyed. Estibaliz describes witnessing a traumatic scene that day, the police breaking her toys and dolls as she watched, frightened and crying. She was about 5 years old when she had to flee with her family to Barcelona. The 4 of them lived in a small apartment with much less comfort. The girl's father was very nervous and harsh, working at home as a writer. In a house too small for 4 people, 2 of them being children, having a moment of complete silence was difficult, leading to frequent conflicts among the residents. In the new school, Estibaliz struggled to make friends. She suffered from bullying due to being Mexican and was also very shy and reserved. Estibaliz's greatest dream was to have a family and become a mother. When her younger brother was born, she became very attached to him, and at the age of 10, she asked her parents when she could have a baby. Her parents found it amusing, but this desire to build a family with a husband and children became stronger and more constant in her thoughts. However, everything changed in adolescence when she was invited to a party where a man took her to a room, handcuffed her, and sexually abused her. This unfortunate event, combined with traumas involving the police and conflicts with her father, led her to have violent thoughts where she assaulted and hurt those men who had harmed her in the past. She even contemplated how her father's death would be, but she didn't go through with the crime. Several years later, under pressure from her father, she graduated in economics. During college, she met a guy and had a relationship that lasted about 5 years. However, it ended when she revealed her dream of marriage and motherhood, and he said he didn't desire that because he didn't want anything serious. Heartbroken, Estibaliz began fantasizing about various ways to kill her ex-boyfriend but did not act on it and continued her life normally. After graduation, her parents sent her to Munich, Germany, to work under the care of a couple who were friends of her parents. In the early months in a new country, she worked as a nanny, but that job didn't last long. Later, she started working in an ice cream shop. Estibaliz was a very beautiful woman who caught the attention of men, and it was during this time that she met Holger Holz in 2002. Holger was a refrigerator salesman who entered Estibaliz's ice cream shop to place an order. He was 14 years older than her. At that time, she was 22, and he was 36. Holger's visits to the ice cream shop became more frequent, and they developed a friendship that would soon turn into a romantic relationship. After a few weeks, he proposed, and they got married. Both their families didn't attend the wedding as they considered it premature, and the age difference was significant. Estibaliz was very happy because her dream of starting a family was becoming a reality. However, the fairy tale soon began to crumble. A man who once praised and was attentive to her had become someone entirely different. He was verbally and physically aggressive, according to her testimony. As if all the mistreatment wasn't enough, he confiscated all her documents and money to prevent her from leaving. In 2005, Holger convinced Estibaliz to move to Vienna, Austria, where they opened an ice cream shop. He promised that once they were financially stable, they would start a family, which was Estibaliz's deepest desire. However, Holger's behavior didn't change, nor did he fulfill the promise he had made. On the contrary, Estibaliz was responsible for the ice cream shop and did all the work at the store and at home, while her husband sat on the couch playing video games all day and looked at his collection of weapons. He used cruel words with her and no longer wanted a marital life because he considered her too thin and told her he felt no sexual attraction, which upset and frustrated her as it ruined her chances of having a child. With so many disagreements, she asked for a divorce, but he refused to leave the house. So, they continued sharing the house without having a conjugal life. In 2007, Estibaliz met another man at the ice cream shop, Manfred Hinterberger, who was 48 at the time and a supplier of ice cream. Despite knowing she was in a relationship with Holger, he spared no effort to visit her and always praised her, encouraging her to leave her husband. After a few days, Manfred invited her on a first date, and they arranged to meet in a more secluded place, starting a relationship that became more frequent. Both Manfred and Estibaliz maintained an open relationship, having the freedom to be with whomever they pleased. On April 27, 2008, Estibaliz was completely irritated with Holger and wanted him to leave, so she started another discussion about him leaving. He once again refused, saying she was foolish and incapable of living alone and that she would never be okay without him. Furious, she took one of the guns from Holger's collection and shot him twice in the head. After committing the crime, she calmly left home, went to the house of a man she had met through an app, and spent the night there while her ex-husband's body remained in their home. The next day she returned home and decided she needed to do something with the body. She set the body on fire inside the house, but her plans failed, drawing the attention of neighbors and firefighters due to the smoke. The firefighters went to her house, and surprisingly, she managed to make up an excuse that she had burned some food, preventing the firefighters from entering the house. Estibaliz then thought of something more elaborate to get rid of any evidence. She went to a hardware store and bought a chainsaw and cement. Upon returning home, she cut Holger's body into pieces and stored it in ice cream containers in the freezer and continued with her normal life, as Holger had no family and no one noticed his absence. Later, Estibaliz needed to move, so she stored her ex-husband's body in ice cream containers to transport from the old house to the ice cream shop. His head, which was too large to fit in ice cream containers, was cemented in a freezer. All these corpse pieces were hidden in a freezer in the basement of the ice cream shop. Free from her ex-husband, Estibaliz was ready to continue her relationship with her lover Manfred. She believed everything would be different, and he would be her prince. For 2 years, it was like that. However, the flowers turned into thorns in her life. Manfred was demanding and asked her to undergo some plastic surgeries and other changes that bothered him. Manfred wanted a perfect girlfriend and also enjoyed liking photos and talking to other women, something that further disturbed Estibaliz's mind. Besides, Whenever she brought up the topic of starting a family, getting married, and having children, he avoided it, saying he didn't want children as he already had others from previous relationships. The idea of potential betrayals, abandonment, and indifference to being a father were the main reasons Estibaliz wanted to end her relationship with Manfred and his life. However, this time, she couldn't make any mistakes. Estibaliz took shooting and concrete lessons. The idea was to act in the same way she had killed her ex-husband, but in a more efficient manner since Manfred had a family and children who might miss him. On November 21, 2010, the couple had returned from a trip and had a huge fight. So, she waited for him to sleep, took a gun, and shot him 4 times in the head. She did the same with his body as she did with Holger's. When some friends and family missed Manfred, Estibaliz said he had gone on a trip but didn't provide many details. Suspicious, the friends filed a missing person report with the police. In December, about a month after Manfred's death, Estibaliz met one of his friends named Roland, 47, and became pregnant by him. Once again, she believed that this time the relationship would work out since, according to her, Roland was different from her previous partners and carried her long-desired child in her womb. However, the happiness did not last long. In June 2011, there was a major leak in the ice cream shop, and some government workers had to enter the premises to contain the leak while Estibaliz was absent. In the basement, they found the freezer with the remains of Holger's and Manfred's bodies and alerted the police. Seeing the police from afar when arriving at the ice cream shop, Estibaliz knew the risks of being arrested. So, she asked a friend to fetch her passport from home and buy a prepaid chip for her. She called Roland, confessed everything, and tried to flee by plane, but there were already police waiting for her at the terminal, so she resorted to trains. Already a fugitive in Italy, she somehow convinced a taxi driver to make a hotel reservation for her in his name. The next day, Estibaliz persuaded a guest to drive her to the Italian city she intended to stay in, where she dyed her hair and met a man who hosted her in his apartment, thinking she was fleeing from an abusive relationship. After a few days, the apartment owner began to suspect her obsession with the Austrian woman case and called the police. On June 10, 2011, Estibaliz was arrested. She gave birth to her son in January 2012 in prison and named him after his father, Roland. In an unusual way, Estibaliz and Roland got married in the interrogation room of the Vienna prison in March 2012. He tried to obtain custody of the child, but the request was denied, and the child began living with his maternal grandparents. On September 5, 2012, Estibaliz was found guilty of the murders, although she claimed to have acted in self-defense. In November 2012, she confessed her crimes in detail to the court and was sentenced to life imprisonment in a psychiatric institution for the murder of her ex-husband in 2008 and her lover in 2010. In 2015, Estibaliz and Roland separated. Some information alleges that the relationship didn't work out because of his inability to stay with the couple's child. In 2017, she fell in love with another and started another relationship that also didn't last long and ended. Leave your opinion on this case in the comments, subscribe to the channel to discover more stories like this, and don't forget to leave a like. See you in the next video.